we saw the quote from Eckhart Tolle. Nisarga Maharaj says, do not neglect this body. This is the house of God. Take care of it. Only in this body can God be realized. Today, I'm going to take one of the other pillars of PSSM, that is regarding vegetarianism. And in that, I will take a particular slant on plant-based diet, which has the power to prevent, to reverse, and potentially cure chronic illnesses. Just as a disclaimer, my presentation is not intended to provide medical advice. It is intended for informational purposes only. Please kindly note that I'm not from the medical field, but my research is based on the work of scientists and medical professionals. If you do decide to make changes, it is best to consult with your GP. My presentation is based on my own experience and in no way implies that this is a universal cure, as I recognize that each individual is unique. I'm going to start with my story. So basically, I've been a vegetarian all my life. However, 3 years ago, exactly 3 years ago, November 2018, I went for a walk with my friend. And as we were walking in the park, there was a slight uphill and I was walking quite briskly. My friend had to slow down. And his breathing actually became labored. So I was very frightened. I asked him to have an appointment with his GP and have him checked out. He said, this is quite normal for him. I said, it's not normal. You need to go to the GP. So he got an urgent appointment with the GP, and the GP immediately sent him for blood tests and an ECG. And within 3 days, the blood test results came back and everything was normal. Upon further inquiry by the GP, he realized that my friend's father had passed away when he was very young. My friend's father was only 28 years old when he had passed away because of a heart attack. So my friend was then immediately referred to the nearest hospital. Within 2 weeks, my friend was seen at the hospital. They had an echocardiogram done and all the tests were repeated and everything was normal. The consultant then decided to do a CT angiogram. So late in December, a CT angiogram was done. And early January, in the first week, he receives a call from the hospital and he's told that he has an 80% blockage in his left anterior LAD, the artery, and he needs to come in and potentially have a stent inserted. So my friend asked me to go with him and I went with him. We went to the hospital, he had his angiogram done, and within half an hour, he was sort of back into the ward. And the consultant came to meet us. And the consultant said, "We are very lucky. There is only a 50% blockage." And then he prescribed a cocktail of drugs, which he would now have to take for the rest of his life. I asked the consultant a question: can you reverse, can you cure the blockage that he's got in his artery? And the consultant said he can make some lifestyle changes and he can take this medication and hopefully the blockage will not get bigger. My friend obviously was very upset. He didn't really want to take these drugs for the rest of his life. And then he asked me, can I help him to find something which is natural and where his blockage can actually be reversed. So I started doing some research. I started reading books. I started watching a lot of YouTube videos, but I did not want to watch any video which was from just a YouTube blogger who did not have a medical and a scientific background. So I watched about 100 videos. I read many books by eminent doctors. And at that time, I decided that going plant-based was the right option for my friend. And whilst I did all this research, I also felt that I should go plant-based. I've been a vegetarian all my life. However, then I decided to become plant-based. So the main inspiration was Frances Greger. She is the grandmother of Dr. Michael Greger. She had end-stage heart disease. And after multiple bypass operations, Frances was sent home in a wheelchair to die at the age of 65. The cardiologist told her, there is no plumbing left in your legs to do any further bypass operations. She then went to the Pritikin Center in US. She was put on a pure plant-based diet and exercise at the age of 65. Within 3 weeks, Frances no longer required a wheelchair. She could walk 10 miles per day. And she lived a further 31 years on a plant-based nutrition, when at the age of 65, she was actually given the death sentence. So Neil Bernard says, if you change your diet to a plant-based diet and do it very vigorously, you have enormous power. You can reverse heart disease, you can prevent it. So does it mean that we have actually forgotten something quite fundamental? Nature intended us to be healthy. We started out as only 2 cells. Our body's intelligence and healing power has formed this incredible masterpiece. All body processes, functions, and systems work together harmoniously to keep our health in balance. This is the design. This is what is normal. This is what is natural. If we cut our finger, it bleeds, a clot forms, and it heals. We must give it an opportunity to heal itself. If we keep disturbing the healing area or cutting it at the same spot every day, it will not get a chance to heal, and we will be in trouble. Similarly, injuries are happening in the body that we are not aware of. We need to give the body an opportunity to heal itself by not injuring it over and over again. Pills, procedures, and interventions are not necessarily the answer. If you think about a smoker, someone who has been smoking 20, 30 cigarettes all their life, yeah, and their lungs are full of tar. If they stop smoking, in 15 years' time, the body actually clears all that tar, and you take an X-ray, after 15 years, you will feel that that guy has never smoked in his life. In 60 seconds, the body will perform millions of complex functions automatically and flawlessly. You will take about 15 breaths. Your heart will beat 70 times. Your tear ducts will moisten your eyes 25 times. 6 million chemical reactions will occur in your brain. Your bone marrow will produce 180 million blood cells and destroy the same amount. You will shed 10,000 particles of skin and 300 million cells will die. Over and over your lifetime, your body will work countless mini miracles to keep you breathing, moving, thinking, and living. That is what is really important. The whole awareness of the body and the ability to heal itself. I mean, the body does its job and says, let me do my job. The body has an innate capacity to heal itself. If you look at most of the leading causes of death worldwide, most of the causes can be prevented, reversed, or cured by a plant-based diet. Dr. Esselstyn, the author of Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, so he said he and his peers were doing nothing to prevent disease in the next unsuspecting victim. In 1985, he did a study of 18 patients. 8 years prior to the study, they had sustained 49 cardiac events. They put them, all of them, on a plant-based diet. After 12 years on a plant-based diet, 17 of the 18 experienced no cardiac events. One had angina because the patient reverted to a standard Western diet and required bypass surgery. In 2014, a study of 198 patients. 119 patients had undergone a coronary intervention with stents or bypass surgery. 44 of them had had a heart attack. After 4 years being on a plant-based diet, 99.4% of those who had adhered to the diet, they had no cardiac events. 93% their angina actually improved or resolved. Of the 21 who did not adhere, 62% had an adverse event. Some success stories. Evelyn Oswick, she had had 2 heart attacks, angioplasty, and a triple bypass operation. The cardiologist said, nothing more can be done. You should go home and wait to die. She becomes a plant-based. She has been with the program for 21 years. Art Soteros in 1992, he already had type 2 diabetes. Between 2003 and 2010, he had 4 stents, 6 angioplasties, and a bypass surgery. He became plant-based. 4 months later, after 18 years, he was declared no longer diabetic. He has had no further chest pain. Therefore, what does Dr. Esselstyn tell us? Once you start eating plant-based foods, you make yourself heart attack proof. We know that people who eat this way will not have a heart attack. It is a food-borne illness, and we are never going to end this epidemic with stents, with bypasses, with drugs, because none of that is treating the causation of disease. Let us look at cancer. The China study is based on one of the largest comprehensive studies of human nutrition ever conducted, with data collected over a span of 20 years. In the China study, T. Colin Campbell and his son, Thomas Campbell, they discussed and analyzed the results from the study and recommend their protocol for best diet for long-term health. Their conclusions are based on a lot of data. The study they created included 367 variables, 65 counties, and 6,500 adults. And he says, when we were done, we had more than 8,000 statistically significant associations between lifestyle, diet, and disease variables. What was their conclusion? Nutrients from animal products promoted cancer growth, whereas nutrients from plant foods decreased cancer growth. He says, we learned that animal protein was very good at turning on cancer. So what is his recommendation for the diet for long-term health? He says, our body needs a variety of complex nutrients. Do not focus on individual nutrient, but go for variety. He says avoid supplements, get nutrients from whole foods. Whole plant-based foods have more of every nutrient, including antioxidants, fiber, vitamins, minerals than animal foods. Genes alone do not determine disease. Nutrition is one of the biggest triggers of gene activation. Whole plant-based foods not only prevent disease, but can also halt or reverse it. Whole plant-based foods prevent diseases across the board. What is good for your heart is also good for your brain, your liver, kidneys, and nervous system. Let us look at diabetes. These are statistics for UK. Every 2 minutes, one individual is diagnosed with diabetes. 4 million people have diabetes. It's going to rise to 5 million by 2025. 10% of our NHS budget is actually spent on diabetes treatment. So diabetes is a condition in which blood sugar levels are elevated over a prolonged period of time. This results in damage to the inner lining of blood vessels. Consequently, diabetes is a significant risk factor for heart and circulatory diseases. It can severely damage the eyes, kidneys, nerves, and other body parts, and double the risk of heart attack and stroke. Let's see some stories about people who went plant-based. Mark, 2003, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. He was taking 5 medications. In 2011, he became plant-based, lost 50 pounds. In 2 months, he became completely medication-free. He reversed type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. Mike Farrell, 2017, he was diagnosed with diabetes. He became plant-based. Within 3 months, sugar levels are normal, type 2 diabetes reversed. That's why Neil Bernard says, a plant-based diet is a powerful tool for preventing, managing, and even reversing type 2 diabetes. Not only is this the most delicious prescription you can imagine, but it's also easy to follow. Unlike other diets, there is no calorie counting, no skimpy portions, and no carb counting, plus all the side effects are good ones. So what are the health benefits of a plant-based diet? It promotes good health and reduces medication requirement. It lowers BMI and body fat. It lowers overall mortality. It prevents, reverses coronary heart disease. It prevents, reverses type 2 diabetes. It reduces the incidence of hypertension and high cholesterol. It improves symptoms from chronic illnesses such as gout, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis. It boosts immunity. 60% of our immunity is in our gut. It prevents autoimmune diseases, and it prevents many cancers. So what does one eat on a plant-based diet? We eat fruits, we eat vegetables, we eat whole grains, we eat pulses, and we eat nuts and seeds. Because plant-based diet is full of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, and fiber, plant-based diets are low in saturated fat and they're completely free of cholesterol. So what are the foods that we avoid on a plant-based diet? One is animal products. Why? Because research shows that animal protein promotes cancer growth. It is associated with heart disease and stroke. IGF-1 promotes cancer growth. Meat, dairy, seafood, and eggs increase IGF-1 levels. Cholesterol, it is only found in animal products. It is not an essential nutrient. Our liver produces enough for our body's needs. It is completely absent in plant food. Saturated fat, it has significant negative impact on our heart health. It leads to higher cholesterol levels. It is primarily found in animal-based foods. We should minimize or avoid dairy. Human beings are the only mammals who drink the milk of another mammal. Milk is a secretion designed to feed babies. Milk does not supply any nutrient that we cannot get elsewhere. Milk calcium is not necessarily protective against osteoporosis. The highest incidence of osteoporosis and weak bones is in countries with the highest consumption of milk: Norway, Finland, Sweden, Australia, UK, and USA. Cows do not produce calcium, they get it from eating greens. Milk is also very high in saturated fat. Milk protein, casein, is linked to a number of cancers, including prostate and ovarian and liver cancer in children. We also minimize or avoid processed foods. Why? Because they have been stripped of fiber, they are low in nutrients, they are loaded in salt, sugar, and fat. They contain artificial ingredients. They are often high in refined carbohydrates. They are often high in trans fats. When you read the label of a processed food, it is like reading a chemistry book, and it has been engineered for overconsumption, and it has been altered to be addictive. We minimize or avoid sugar. Why? It is addictive. Weight gain happens. There is an increased risk of cancer. Cancer cells thrive on sugar. It is an indirect cause for diabetes. The aging process is hastened. We get a weakened immune system. It can lead to liver failure, and it can lead to heart disease. We also minimize oil. Why? Because oil is nothing but empty calories. There are no nutrients in oil. There are 9 calories per gram of fat as opposed to 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate or protein. It is a processed food. For 1 tablespoon of oil, you would need 40 olives or 2 avocados. Nature packages plants in their whole form, and the closer we stay to the original plant, the healthier we are. Fat obviously is an essential nutrient. Our bodies need fat to survive, and it is easy to get the necessary fats by consuming a variety of whole plants. You receive all the nutritional benefit of plants when eaten in their whole form. Oil-free does not mean fat-free. So Dr. Esselstyn again tells us, some people think plant-based whole foods diet is extreme. Every year, 500,000 people will have their chests opened up and a vein taken from their leg and sewn into their coronary artery. Some people would call that extreme. Some further success stories: Don Davis, he had kidney function of only 3%, he was on dialysis. Went on to a plant-based diet. 1 year later, his kidney function improved, is free from dialysis. Rick, age 73, he's obese, he's got heart disease, heart attack, triple bypass surgery, arthritis, enlarged liver, stage 3 kidney disease, and neuropathy. Goes on to a plant-based diet, blood pressure becomes normal, no medication. He loses 30 kilos, eliminated arthritis and neuropathy. At 75, he feels more energetic, light, and younger. Brittany, aged 25, only 25. She's obese, hypertension, high cholesterol, and the resting heartbeat is 90. She goes on to a plant-based diet. Blood pressure becomes normal. she loses 27 kilos, no high cholesterol, and she's free from all medication. My story continues. So when we decided to go on to this plant-based diet, my wife obviously supported me, and both of us started this journey 3 years ago. So that is what I was before I started. And that is what happened within 6 to 8 weeks. So I lost 12 kilos. My BMI went from 27.6 to 23.13. My cholesterol became normal, so I no longer require any statins. I feel much lighter, have much more energy. I have only one kidney, and therefore it is very important for me. I used to have protein in my urine, but it is no longer there. My kidney function is actually stable, but it has actually improved over the last 3 years. And I actually am invited. I used to be a patient in our nearby hospital in the kidney nephrology department. And now the hospital actually invites me to give this talk to other kidney patients, which I do 3 or 4 times every year. These are the books that I used, I read for my study, and they are really very good books worth reading. These are various documentaries that I watched on either Netflix, Amazon Prime, or YouTube, really worth watching. So in a nutshell, what is the message? The message is we need to minimize or avoid animal products, dairy, processed foods, sugar, and oil. And what do we eat? We maximize fruits, vegetables, whole grains, pulses, nuts, and seeds. So what is the healthy takeaway? The body has an innate capacity to heal itself. Give it the opportunity to do so. You can prevent diseases across the board with one simple diet. Let food be thy medicine. It is worth a try. Swap 1 meal a day a week, or 100% for 30 days. If you are on medication, please measure your blood pressure and blood glucose levels regularly, as they improve very quickly. When levels improve, consult your GP to advise on medication dosage. You will need to take 2 supplements. One is vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Last but not least, food for thought. Once you start eating plant-based foods, you make yourself heart attack proof. If it is from a plant, eat it. If it is made in a plant, skip it. Are we feeding health, or are we fueling disease? The longest lived people eat a plant-based diet. Nothing they eat has a wrapper on it. Food turns genes on and off. Thank you, everyone.